Previously on agentpalmer.com, Ode to a Snack That Is Probably Gone Forever, Cabal the novel is reason enough to pick up Cabal the book, and aside from what was mentioned in last episode, I'm not sure what Bill could recommend that would broaden my reading horizons more, but I'm sure he'll think of something. This is the Palmer Files, episode 172, with the return of Jason Pilling, who's back because last time we barely scratched the surface for his return to music, and I wanted to learn more. We start discussing his career and instinct for responsibility and providing for his family, continue on with self-confidence or lack thereof, and then dive into marketing and passion, creation, strategy, collaboration, motivation, and much, much more. Are you ready? Let's do the show!
My first salary at the bank was more than my dad made, as a 25-year experienced teacher. And I just thought, this is ridiculous. Professional intent and having enough self-awareness to think about whether or not you're doing a good job, in my opinion, that is like 80% of the battle of being good at something. My wife was not the person who lacked self-confidence. She knew she was awesome. I think since I've quit my job, I've never worked harder.
Hello and welcome to the Palmer Files. I'm your host, Jason Stershik, also known as Agent Palmer, and on this 172nd episode is the return of Jason Pilling. Not too long ago, I released episode 166, Jason Pilling Has the Music, which was a great episode about music and inspiration and how he got his start, but we glossed over his return to music. But he's back now to color in some of the gaps and shade in the details of that story. We're going to tangent a bit, but this episode is a more detailed look at how Jason got his groove back, where he is now, and where he's heading. But before we get there, remember that if you want to discuss this episode as you listen or afterwards, you can find all related ways to contact Jason and myself in the show notes. You can see all of Jason's stuff at jasonpilling.com or look up Jason Pilling or Young Tukes on Spotify or SoundCloud or YouTube. Don't forget you can see all of my writings and rantings on agentpalmer.com, and of course, email can be sent to thepalmerfiles@gmail.com. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, Jason, we're going to start right here. You were bored at work and you were like, I think I want to become, you want to make an album? You want to become a music producer? I mean, these are all things that you are right now. You've put out album, you're a record producer, but you're bored at work. What is the first motivating factor of like, I want to do something else?
Well, I got into, the work that I was doing just out of a sort of an instinct of responsibility, I guess. I knew I wanted to marry my wife and, be a good family person. And that meant being a stable human being who came home and wasn't running around the world on the weekends and, paying the mortgage.
A steady income to pay the mortgage too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started, my banking career strictly for the money.
Yeah.
And also, I was, I'd said on the previous that, when I started making the album, it was my peak self-confidence. And I think that's an important part of the story arc, because I was not at all self-confident in high school. And I think that's pretty common for sort of the introverted nerd, that you just kind of feel like you have no idea how to manage yourself socially, and you can't sort of create the opportunities for yourself that other people seem to be able to do for themselves.
Yeah.
And also, I think that, my family were all pretty good, sort of talented, multidisciplinary people. And I never really felt like I stood out. Like I thought I was, I guess I thought I was more average than I was.
I mean, that's kind of the standard, like within your own house, there's, depending on what you do, unless you completely go a different direction than everybody else in the house, then you're at a loss because your parents are older and have more experience. So I had no ego. I had
limited ambition except to marry this woman. I was very sure about that.
Okay. That's a pretty good one to be sure about.
Yeah, and I did that. Still married. And obviously no regrets about that. But then, I got into this banking thing thinking, and the first thing that hit me, I don't know, maybe I should have clued in on, because I was a math guy.
Okay.
And I got into banking just as derivatives were becoming like a big thing. And the banks were hiring anybody who could do calculus. And my first salary at the bank was more than my dad made, as a 25-year experienced teacher. And I just thought, this is ridiculous. Like, I don't understand why this is true, but it didn't really kind of hit me what was going on.
Okay.
And then it turned out I was actually quite good at it. And then I ended up becoming a trader of derivatives. And then I ended up running like this really quite large derivative trading program for like one of the biggest Canadian financial companies. Like, I kid you not, I used to write emails saying we should trade this $700 million.
Does it, I mean, now that you're removed from it, does it feel like a different world, a different life?
I
got feel real?
I got into it very gradually.
Okay.
Like when I became a trader, and then, I would just kind of like shout over my shoulder, I buy and sell $1 million of something. You just start to get kind of numb about it. And the truth is, you buy and sell $1 million, you can just immediately sell it back. But, like the consequences of that kind of tick in front of you at, at a rate of $1,000 every few seconds. And, I was never a big deal as a trader. I became a big deal as a manager of a program.
Okay.
Because that was kind of what I was good at. I was a mastermind kind of personality. And, I was well suited to like lead a team that built a machine that did a thing. So that's what I ended up doing. And they paid me quite well. And so that's how my self-confidence was injected.
Okay.
I just sort of gradually realized, I can do stuff. And when I feel like I can do something, I can damn well go do it now. But I was in my late 30s by the time that feeling hit me that I could just do stuff and be ambitious. I didn't have self-confidence in my 20s at all. I thought I was a nobody and would always be a nobody. And I'm still a nobody, to be clear, but
well, I mean, I don't know that you could say that, because by the act of doing something, the act of I have a blog, and I've had a blog. I mean, geez, the blog, it feels like it, I don't know. I think maybe the blog can vote now. I don't know. I'm not 20 yet with the blog, but I'm very close.
Mm-hmm.
And I've, I write about what I want, and I don't make a dime off of it, but it's something I can do. And, I'll be the first to admit there's no self-confidence there. I mean, I'm comfortable writing and sharing, and I guess that takes a level of it, but it doesn't, I'm not confident there. But I do know in a small way that I've met some very interesting independent authors that I have struck up relationships with, and I'll get, maybe an advanced copy of a book, and I get to read it and review it, and then I'll work with them to time out my review in a way where, it benefits them. So they have a little bit of, it's a small blog, but they have a little bit of press that they can share of somebody doing a thing, right? And
the internet matters. The internet searches and finds that.
And so, and then, and that feels like it should garner some self-confidence. It doesn't. Like there's still very much the insecure, not to be cliche, but like writing poetry in my notebook and not sharing it with anybody person. Yes. That I'm still am, even though I'm able to write, I don't know, 1,000 words about a thing and share it. Right. And then there's this podcast, which kind of evolved out of it in a way. And I gotta tell you, I have the same kind of pulpit in a sense here that I do there. I don't know which one's better. And I treat them equally. And I treat them professionally. None of this is, well, it may sound half-assed sometimes because we're having a good time. We're having a conversation. Like I treat it as a level of professional that I would want it to be at. I don't want to put out anything that's not. I don't know that in any of this, just to bring it back to you, I don't know that I give myself any confidence anywhere other than like occasionally a friend will be like, "You're still doing that? Good for you." And then there's occasionally you're still doing that? Why are you still doing that? And then it's like, all right, so now I got to find
the second one is troubling. The first one is the right instinct from your friend. Yeah. But I think, the thing that I had, I guess, somewhat uniquely is that, I was very successful at one thing once. And what that taught me was what it feels like to be really good at something.
Okay. And you want it for something you want to do now.
Yes.
Okay.
And the thing is that it doesn't, nothing about what I do changes when I go do music. Everything you just said a minute ago about, I have professional intent.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. To me, like that's the key. Like professional intent and having enough self-awareness to think about whether or not you're doing a good job. In my opinion, that is like 80% of the battle of being good at something. So, I mean, I've listened to your shows. I thought they were good. So I'll give you the credit for, you've achieved something. You've done a good job of what you like. It shows that you had professional intent is what I'm getting at. And so, I come to music with this new point of view that if I make a plan to be good at something, I can execute on that plan and I will be good at it. And mind you, I thought about other things. I thought about going into politics. Save the world.
Yeah.
That didn't go very far. I got briefly involved in politics and it's toxic.
Yeah.
Toxic for good people, and I ran away. Music was the thing I came back to.
So we're talking, I guess to the initial question, you want to make an album or you want to produce music? Because obviously they go hand in hand, but what's the initial thought?
Well, okay, so I quit my job. I was making good money. Okay, and I think the other part of the story is that my wife is an independent artist as well.
Okay.
Throughout my entire marriage, I made good money, and my wife made good money as well. But my wife made good money on a different arc. My wife was not the person who lacked self-confidence. She knew she was awesome. And just went and did stuff.
Okay.
And people started to recognize how awesome she was, and then they started to pay her. But for a few years, she didn't really get paid very much. But you're a podcaster. Yeah. She started podcasting at CBC, like the national broadcaster of Canada. And at one point she was the producer of like 3 of the top 10 podcasts in Canada or something like that. So she's done amazing things. And then she decided she wanted to write a book. And then she wrote a book and she published a book. And it sold reasonably well for, like, she's not a famous author, but she does a lot. Like, on if we were to kind of like proxy her success as an author to my successes in music, she's, somewhere between 10 and 50 times my size. So she was inspiring to me in that, I'm good enough to be married to this woman. If she can do it, I can do it. Plus, I had sort of a self confirmation that I was good at this other job. So, and she encouraged me to quit the job as well. She said, well, what do you need the money for anymore? You're just it's like you're just pursuing it out of fear that you might need it. And she's like, you're not happy. You're miserable, in fact. And I think, she remembered what I used to be like when I was, thinking about art. And she's like, that's who you are. Just do it. And so I give her 100% credit for sort of saving me from myself. So she encouraged me to quit. I quit. And I just kind of like had a business plan in my mind. I'm going to become a musician.
Okay.
I'm going to break even in 5 years.
All right. Well, I want to stop for a second first here because we talked about your, we'll call it dead zone, your black zone. Are you picking up? I mean, I know you're not gigging, but are you still picking up a guitar? Are you still picking up a bass? Are you, do you have calluses? Do you still have some playing chops through those years, or is this just kind of no music?
No, I basically stopped. Well, I stopped dead for about 10 years.
Okay.
I started to like fiddle on the guitar for a few years before I quit. Like, actually, the album about The Office.
Yep.
I dropped that album before I quit.
Okay. So you were starting to kind of noodle a bit and kind of get back.
Yeah, it was actually my pre-pandemic band that really convinced me because they were serious.
How did you? All right, but okay, I know. We'll get back to your story, but how do you go from not playing at all to having a pre-pandemic band?
Well, you never really lose your skills per se. And plus I started producing the music, right? So I'd say, the muscle memory all came back.
Okay.
Through the process of making that album. Like, I basically finished making that album by the time I joined that band. That was actually kind of the process. I finished making the album and I thought, it's time to join a band.
Okay.
So I went out and I joined a band, and they really awakened. Like, I saw them trying to make it. And I had never been in a band that I thought was this serious about trying to make it before. And they just kind of showed me again, oh, I'm in this band when these guys are trying to make it. Why can't I try to make it? And, well, they haven't made it either up until this point. No, but they were serious.
And they were trying. Is the point. You can't, you're not.
That is the key, that they were trying, and they were good. I listen to their music. No, I'm not in the band anymore, but I listen to their music and I admire what they do. They were good songwriters. They produced good songs. The band name is Galax.
Okay.
It's like relax with a G on it. But if you go look up their music, it's interesting. It's prog, like kind of proggy pop music, which is what I wanted to play when I was playing bass. I like playing kind of like weird stuff.
Hey, look, I mean, not everybody, and I'm guilty of this. Like, you can only play quarter notes and whole notes and the root note or for so long, for
so long.
Yeah.
Well, I play in an Americana band now where I play more of the simple stuff. But the game there is just like, don't make mistakes. Play it really perfect. But that's also kind of like, I built that upright bass and I play the upright bass, and it is so fun to play, even just like the simple stuff. But the other key to that band is I love those guys. Just the time spent with them is priceless. And I do it for free. And I'm happy to do it for free because I want to hang out with them.
Yeah.
And that to me is like what drives any, I think, successful band forward at this point is there has to be that camaraderie on some level or another. Like I got along great with the pre-pandemic band as well. And it's just like we all were on this sort of mission that we all wanted to be in music. And we were much more different as people. But we got along on this mission, and we still had the same fundamental values. We're all just kind of like people that want to see the world as a better place, kind of thing. And I still talk to one of them all the time. He's my mastering engineer and occasionally plays drums on my stuff.
So you are convinced, you quit the job. You've got one album in your back pocket and you're in a band. And now you have a lot more time on your hands.
Yep.
First question before we move on, how did you deal with having so much time on your hands?
I worked my ass off on music.
Okay.
The thing that I learned from the pre-pandemic band is you got to really work hard on the marketing. And I produced a lot of content. This is kind of like what I'm sort of known for a little bit in like the local industry among my peers. Is like Jason produces a lot of content. And that's just me trying to self-market. And I thought that the time that I had would be my superpower. When I quit the job and I started to make music, I thought, okay, I'm already good at music. That's not my problem.
Okay.
What I'm bad at is marketing. And so I worked so hard on trying to learn how to market myself. And just like many hours a week. I think since I've quit my job, I've never worked harder. It's never stopped. Until recently when I kind of hit a wall and had a little bit of a breakdown this last summer. But up until then, I just like worked constantly.
It's I don't know, because I come from marketing, and I think, for as hard as you worked, I can still maybe say this statement, like we can all still market ourselves better. It's not necessarily about time or content, but we could all do better. I could promote this episode. I could have promoted this episode that you are hopefully listening to now in more places or more often or in a different way or, whatever. But one of the things that I don't know how to feel about this because you're a solo artist in a sense. Mm-hmm. You're also, within a community. So I feel like you're a little helped than say maybe me in my basement with, I don't have a blog sphere like there would have been maybe 20 years ago. And I know a few other podcasts, but they're busy doing their thing.
Mm-hmm. That's actually a trend, by the way.
But
in music.
But you almost need someone else, because I don't know. I'll be the first to admit I don't promote enough. But I can also confidently say, if I was promoting enough, this episode wouldn't be happening. Some of those blog posts would be a little lackluster. Like there's only so much energy that I have, and I spend more of it giving you a better blog post to read and a better podcast to listen to than maybe the discoverability. And I'm hoping that there will be a word of mouth of some kind down the road that will bear me out on this. But I also know that this, sadly, I don't know if I'd want it to be my livelihood. And that's a maybe different discussion for us to have. But since it's not my livelihood, I feel like I can make a distinction and a distinct, turn and go, I would rather put out something better than promote it.
Well, I felt like I should have time to do both. I think that I completely agree with you when it's kind of like it's my side thing. Then it should be focused entirely on the quality of the product and how that makes you feel.
But as your whole thing.
But I felt like, okay, I'm splitting my time sort of whatever down the middle. I'm gonna spend half my time making the thing, and I still have an entire another, half of my life. Because my kid's basically old enough. My kid is helpful now. My kid makes dinner and cleans up. I don't have to, look after my kid anymore. So I have lots of time and lots of energy, and it's just like, how do I use it to reach my goals?
Yeah.
And I'm terrible. I've tried everything about marketing. It is so hard. To this day, I still don't understand. I've tried multiple strategies, and it's just been a struggle. And you start to just feel like, well, when I first started, I legitimately thought, well, I'm just going to have a business plan. I'm just going to keep on trying stuff until something works, because I've got time to just go down the list and try them all.
Yep.
And I've tried them all. And I can't explain necessarily why they don't work, except it's just, what do people really want from new music? And I think what I've learned over time is that I've dramatically overestimated the size of my market. I thought that the market of people who were looking for music like me was larger than it was. And over time, I've learned, actually, the thing that I love as a listener, which is also what I try to service as a musician, is actually super niche.
So I know that I can agree with you to a point, because I guess my mother is partially retired, semi-retired, not quite retired, but not quite working. She was an internal marketer consultant for the longest time. That was what she did for basically my whole life. Mm-hmm. And internal marketing is basically, in a nutshell, you need to be a good customer for your employees so they can be better for your customers. Happy employees equals happy customers. Now, there's not a lot of businesses that necessarily follow that, but the ones that do are usually the best places to work. It's funny how that works. They're also very successful usually. And I only bring it up for this reason. Most of the places that need an expert like my mother don't think they need an expert like my mother. And by that same token, what you see as niche, and it may very well be, I still believe music is music, and that the people that may like your music the best, probably the ones that are just not with it. And I guess I could say, hey, everybody, if you haven't listened to episode 1, I'm going to summarize something, but both Jason and I came late to grunge in different ways, but we came to the party at some point in different ways, right? And I think that by that same token, at your and my's separate but similar anti-grunge, or that's not for me, or not quite it for me, I don't think either of us would have believed that one day we would be on the other side. And so I think music is music. I don't love Taylor Swift, but I like Taylor Swift. Again, not something I thought I would ever say, right? And I think I still believe music is universal. And so I think that part of it is you're niche because the amount of people willing to admit they like your stuff, or willing to admit they like your genre. Do you know what I mean? Like, or like, oh, I like indie folk. Like, yeah, there are probably people that only listen to pop that really do like indie folk. They just don't know it, right? Like, there's any number of things. But by that same token, this is why marketing is so hard, because technically your audience is everybody. And I'm going to tell you the thing that used to get me in trouble when I was a digital marketer for a nonprofit organization that had no money. Mm-hmm. And they'd always want to do cool stuff. And we used to do some really cool stuff. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. But you know what the biggest problem? And this was 10, 15 years ago. It's still a big problem. So I don't want anybody to downplay what I'm about to say. But at the height of Twitter in, say, 2012, you could be a brand of 100,000. You could be an independent blog of 100. You could be Coca-Cola with 2 million subscribers or followers or whatever. You're competing against each other, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's the platform. That's the way it works. So is it, and Twitter at that time was very specific because it was one of the few social networks that showed you everything you followed. So Coke and the organization I worked for and you and me all had equal, if somebody followed all four of us, there was an equal chance they were going to see everything we saw. However,
it's just true. I remember when Twitter used to be a sequential time-based feed before it went algo.
But the problem is it's still happenstance, right? It's still, all right, all four of us are going to show up on the feed.
Yeah.
Which one are they going to see? Even before video and when it was just text, there's 4 text blocks. Yep. What are they going to see? What's their mood? Do they have time? And all of that is to say that I'm not saying that your marketing efforts are anything other than what you're doing. Their level of success is almost entirely based on what you set the parameters at, but it's also, you could do the same thing spaced a month apart and have different results for no apparent reason. And I think that it may be more admirable that you put all your time into it than it is like anything else, because you're trying new things.
Yeah, I'm going to continue to try new things. My current strategy is, I don't know, are we allowed to curse on this podcast?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Because my new strategy is Jason doesn't give a fuck.
I like that strategy. I think that strategy may work out much better than you expect.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's ironic that I'm secretly hoping that works, of course, but that's also a defense mechanism. Like, it's like I've tried everything you're supposed to try, and I've made some headway. I feel like I've earned the respect of my peers.
Okay,
but that doesn't translate necessarily because my peers are a pretty small audience.
Yeah, I can't. I've read too many like music biographies and they all kind of jumbled together, but there's always like within any music scene, there's always like the musician that those guys like. And it's never like, I don't know, like take like whoever's touring together or like within a rock genre of like 1980, whatever. And they all have like their one guy they all look up to. And it's almost never anybody we've ever heard of. Right. Yeah. And so I don't know, like, is that guy comfortable because all these popular people list him as their guy, or like, has he made it?
It doesn't. Well, I think Bob Wiseman that I mentioned in the last episode, he's one of those guys. It's just like sort of has almost like a reason to be bitter because he's so frequently cited by other musicians as being influential, yet he has like dismal listener stats himself. He can still kind of put on a show. He has like a certain amount of audience to put on a show, but
yeah, there's a weird disconnect, and it sucks because what it truly means, especially now with you having a recording studio in your house, basically, and me, I don't know, I guess the same tools I use to record this podcast could be used to record any of the guitars behind me, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. What I mix this podcast on, I could mix music on. And that means that we're kind of against each other if I was ever to put out something.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I know I've struggled with that as well. It's like, yes, the music industry is, they keep on saying we're all in it together. We're all in it together. I'm like, but we're not actually all in it together. We're in brutal competition.
And it's I always think back to before I had a podcast, when I was just a podcast listener, I listened to so many podcasts, and they were all friendly with each other, and that was great. And there would be some great crossover and this, that, and the other thing. But at the end of the day, if 12 episodes get released in a 3-day span, I can't listen to all, even if I didn't have a job. Like, it's just really hard mathematically to get it all in. And by the same token, yeah, you could listen to my album and Jason's album, but most people don't have that kind of time. Most people aren't listening to albums. I mean, I feel like I'm the rarity. I make time to sit down and listen to an album, old or new, from beginning to end, because I like the idea that the artist put this together for a reason, and I'm going to take that journey with them. But I also know I'm a rarity in that I listen to a whole album.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of music. Like, that's part of I'm constantly searching for people to collaborate with. And so I listen to pretty much everything my peers put out.
That's a third job you've given yourself.
I'm
I'm not trying to pick on you, but like, that must be as much time as the marketing.
Well, I categorize that under marketing, because collaboration is marketing.
All right.
So finding a good collab is priceless, in my opinion, for marketing.
Yeah.
Because, you basically, I call it lottery tickets. Like, I put out this EP a couple of years ago where I got someone to officially feature on every single song.
Okay.
They're all good musicians. I just viewed it as like, any one of these guys has, some success, their profile is going to link back to mine.
Yep.
And, that wasn't the only reason I did it, but that was part of my motivation to go the extra mile to make it the official collab. Plus, music is better when you do it with other people. Not only the process you enjoy more, but the music is literally better, in my opinion, when you get more than one brain on it. There's, we hear about the legend of Prince or whoever that, or Stevie Wonder did everything themselves. But they did it all themselves after someone had taught them how to do it. They didn't come out of the womb knowing how to record the entire album themselves.
Yeah.
They were experienced musicians when they did that. And I can produce an entire album by myself too. And, I'm not going to try to claim that it's the same, but it's just like, it's not rocket science, to play a beat on the drums. No, they played every instrument. Yeah, we don't need to get into that.
No, that's not what I was gonna. I was gonna say it, but you got to remember, and I feel like I say this every time I talk about music, but we and podcasting. I guess I say this a lot more with podcasting, but I think music is pretty equal, where your fanatics understand. Like, my particular, one of my particular circles I ran around in high school was a bunch of metalheads, and we watched the documentary A Year and a Half in the Life of Metallica all the time. It was just something we'd put on all the time. I still probably have half of it memorized, and it's one of those 2 VHS things, right? But it's about the making of the Black Album. So as fanatics of that kind of a thing, we understand the process by which an album is made. Mm-hmm. And I think to the same extent, DVD extras have taught movie fanatics this is how you make a movie. They get behind the scenes stuff. Mm-hmm. Podcasting is a little bit less. Nobody's that much of a fanatic. Nobody knows how this works. People still think it's just record, publish, and it's not. But, the point is, when you're not fanatical about it, which most people aren't, most people are just a fan. They're not the step up. They're a fan. They don't know everything that goes into it. So if you can play, if you say, hi, I'm Jason, I can play guitar, drums, and bass and sing, this is my album. They think, oh, that seems okay. Yeah, what's the big, yeah, all right, you can do all those things. You did all those things. Now you have an album. Like, there is no true concept of the behind the scenes for a fan, right? They know maybe there's other musicians, maybe whatever, but the process, you might as well be a wizard. Like, it is truly
True.
magic. And there's the thing that I've skipped over in all of this, which is, you know, you can know everything there is to know about recording techniques and, you know, how to play every instrument. Jason, where do the ideas come from? How do you write? Like, that's still, I mean, we don't have to talk about Muse, but that's pretty magical, right? Like, when you write a verse, a chorus, a line that really resonates with yourself or with me or with anybody, like, that's magic. People don't understand that.
Yeah. Yeah, I just mean, like, there's like little details. Like on the previous, I talked about, like, you know, you get an instrument and you need to touch it to play it.
Yeah.
And stuff like that to get like the little expressive details. So that's part of it, is that you get someone in that is really good at their instrument, and they will be able to get to a place that you can't get on your own, and you couldn't even imagine, because you didn't even, like, I've been making this 80s cover thing recently. It's like my current project in production. It's not released, you know, you'll be released in 2026 sometime, maybe not early 2026. And so I had this person come in, and her artist name is Zinnia, if you ever want to look her up. But she's an amazing viola player, and I had scored out what she was going to play, and I gave her the score, and, you know, she's a trained musician. She was just playing the score, and then, you know, we just start talking about it, and she's like, "Well, I could try some of these things," and she starts doing what's called extended techniques, and she starts just like, and so so the songs I did a cover of the ones that she played on a lot, where I did like this kind of weird acoustic cover of a Metallica song.
Nice.
And so she played all these like really creepy sounds on the viola. So it's Seek and Destroy I did.
Oh,
right.
Nice.
And so the song is just kind of like about these people that just want to go out and break shit. Right. And so she played all these like really creepy sounds on her viola. I could have never scored that for her. The only reason that's going to be on the recording is because she was in the room and she said, "I could try this." And she started, and I'm like, yes, do more of that. And that's the interaction of the collaboration that makes a song better. When I do it by myself, I always have to think about what are my boundaries, because I don't want to get into a place where I'm over my head and I'm playing like an amateur. I want to only play stuff that I can play really well. Or I've hired lots of people to like play parts. If I get into a boundary where like, no, this isn't good enough, I'm hiring a person to come in and play. But there are lots of times where I make a song by myself that I stay out of that zone. And then, you know, I'm obviously very proud of what I'm putting out, and I don't feel like it's been compromised by me doing it by myself. But whatever, it expands the range, I guess.
Well, and so that collaborative aspect is maybe something that it gets lost a little bit. And I think that, I mean, more power to you for having people in. And I guess is it your self-confidence that allows you to go like, all right, well, yeah, I wrote this, but do that because that's so much better. That's got to be some self-confidence.
Yeah, I would agree that I'm not feeling like the song is dying without them. But I've just had that experience so many times that, well, that's part of the reason, like I said earlier, it's like I'm listening to other people because I want to hear what they do.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I reach out to people constantly. Hey, would you like to try doing this? Would you like to try doing that? And the truth is that 90% of what you get back is, I don't have time. They don't really say no. They're not against it. Some of them will say yes, and then they don't do it. And some of them will be just honest, like, I don't have time. Most people are doing music in their spare time because they need some other way to pay the bills. And I always consider it like my superpower that I have the time to do it. So I'm like, I will take care of everything. Just show up and play. That's all I need you to do. And some people have just kind of got into that mode. Like this woman, Zinnia, it's part of what she does. That's how partly she pays her bills. She does sessional work. So for her, it's like super easy to book her. Just booked her for the whole afternoon. We did all kinds of stuff. She played on 4 songs.
So we talked a little bit about it, but obviously you're a musician. You're mixing your own stuff. Are you producing albums for other people?
I've done a little bit of that. I've done recording stuff more than I've done producing. I've never really done creative stuff for other people. I think people are really precious about the creative side. So I've done like recording stuff and I've mixed for people a little bit.
Okay.
But that just it's kind of happenstance. I don't really seek that work out because if I do that, I'm not working on my own stuff. And so I kind of want to do that because I want to collaborate.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, I'll do that as a favor for you because I want you to do something for me collaboratively. We'll help each other.
Yeah.
We'll tradesies.
Yeah. No. Hey, yeah, that's.
So I've done a little bit of that. And I did it really cheaply for a while. And I just kind of decided I can't do it cheaply anymore because I feel like I've hit a wall on what I'm achieving and what I'm feeling good about how I'm moving forward. And I guess I've got enough connections into the community now. If I was willing to give away my time, I could give it all away and people would take it because enough people have kind of learned, I can fix instruments, I can build instruments, I can record things. If I wanted to give away my time, I could give it all away, no problem. So I just kind of said, I have to take it back because I started to feel like I'm not achieving my own goals. So I sort of stopped that. And one person I was doing it for, I just kind of told them, I'm not really going to do it anymore. And then I called them back 3 months later. Okay, my head's above water again. I'll do it again. But I'm going to double my rate. and I'm not doubling my rate to be greedy. I'm doubling my rate because I recalibrated my rate at such that if I work for you, I will make enough money that I can pay someone to work for me. Yep. And that's how we'll do the tradesies.
All right. So I need to ask this question. I have a friend. I went to a very small liberal arts school. And I was a communications major. So I had a lot of art major friends, and 20 years on, most of those people, even if they're still doing art in their spare time, have never truly figured out the value of art. And what's worse is when they're in a medium like painting or sculpture, they're not as lucky as necessarily you are in that, I don't know, you can go on Bandcamp and see what a million other people are charging for that stuff that's fairly standard. It's not standardized, but you have a very good range with which to work from, whereas you got a 12 by 15 canvas painting. Good luck. I mean, good luck trying to figure out what the value of that is.
Yeah.
But I love the idea that you doubled your rate because I also think that on a whole, when we do things we love, we're very hesitant to charge the actual probable value of that. And I wanted to know, was it hard for you to charge at all? Because obviously you like doing music. So
yeah, I wanted to do it for community first.
Okay.
That was my number one motivation is if I loved working with you and secretly, I don't necessarily want the people I charge to hear it, but there are some people I work for free because, but I've tried to set the rule now. I don't work for free unless I'm a creative director of the project.
Okay.
Everybody else pays.
If you're along for the ride in any capacity,
it's going to have my name on it as an output. That's my line now.
Right.
Everybody else has to pay.
How did you get here? Because obviously, if you started wanting to do it for the community, I mean, was it, all right, I don't have time for my stuff anymore, I need to charge?
That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
I have to, I just wanted it. Like I said, I'd hired a lot of people to do tracks for me. And my experience of trying to hire people to do tracks basically taught me what the going rate was for someone to approach the job professionally and get it done.
Okay.
Because a lot of people will offer to do it for free and then they don't get it done. And for someone like me that is like kind of a little bit business oriented, I don't make any money at this, to be clear, but I'm still business oriented in this, like, we're accountable, we're aiming high, all of those things. So, if we have an agreement to do something, it should get done.
Yeah.
So you just start to, I've learned that free is worth what you pay.
Yeah.
Every once in a while you get lucky and it's like, damn, that was amazing. And that was free. But the truth is that most of the time it's more logistical problems to get a free thing than if you just paid for it.
Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense than I think I'd like to admit. So you have an album coming. I want to ask, not for any other reason than I want to know how many things you're juggling. How many more albums are in your head right now? Like, are you focused on one, or is there still another percolating? Are you still like,
I try to keep a full plate, and we're talking about collaboration stuff. So collaboration is hard to do logistically. It's really a stage managing job of who's available, and so I've been doing this like collaborative EP. Well, not even fully collaborative. Just like I have some featured people again that are gonna show up on this 80s cover project, and that took months to do, even though I did offer a price for the track. But again, they have their own careers. They have their own music careers, their pay the bill careers, and it's tough to get people to do the job sometimes. So that took a long time to organize. So I always try to have like different streams. One stream is these are the collaborative streams that I can be patient with. And then I have streams that's like, okay, I need to have some songs that I'm producing entirely by myself, so that when I get frustrated with this other stuff, I can switch on to this song that I'm doing entirely by myself.
Okay.
So basically I just released an album. We're talking in October, in fact, and I just released this album at the end of September. And so that was an album that took basically a full calendar year to make after I wrote it.
Okay.
And then it sat on the shelf for a while because I had two albums going at the same time. So I mentioned earlier that like there's an album called Power Down that came out last year, and I was working on the album called Power Down and the album called Post Nursery Rhymes simultaneously. And so I finished them at about the same time. So then Post Nursery Rhymes sat on the shelf for a year while I went through the release cycle for Power Down.
Well, it makes perfect sense because you're already competing with me. You don't want to compete against yourself as well.
Yeah, you don't want to compete against, and the reason that just worked out is just because I had an opportunity to do Post Nursery Rhymes with this producer that I was excited about working with. And her name's Gabrielle Papillon. She's an artist in Nova Scotia, and her solo stuff is fantastic. I recommend it to anyone. And we got along great, and we made this album together. But I basically paused the album I was working on to do the thing with Gabrielle. And then as soon as I was done actively working with Gabrielle, I finished the other one, released it, and then came back around and released the Gabrielle stuff, which has come out here it was basically 2025 was my Post Nursery Rhymes year. It was kind of a big deal for me. I feel like Post Nursery Rhymes is like, it's sort of the phase of my life that I got into after, like I did the album that was kind of like inspired by my life before I quit.
Okay.
Post Nursery Rhymes is very much like the first thing that was like fully and entirely conceived and done after I'd quit. and it sort of reflects all of my state of mind, and it's much more big world thinking. And the reason I call it post nursery rhymes is just because they're kind of like, I call them parables for adults. It was just kind of like reactions to things that are happening in my life, usually in my life, but also just kind of like being part of the world. And so, yeah, I'm very proud of the sort of the intellectual content of that album as well. And now I'm working. So there's a long answer to your question of what. So I'm working on Post Nursery Rhymes Volume 2 now.
Oh, nice.
Like I said, it became like a big. I felt very connected to this, and so I'm already like partly done Post Nursery Rhymes Volume 2, but also I just love producing, like self-producing, or I would produce other people if they, I guess, paid me. But if they're not going to pay me, I'm going to produce myself because it's more fun to produce yourself than work for free, I guess.
Yeah.
If you're going to work free, might as well be for yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the covers EP, and I have basically a couple more ideas about cover projects that I feel like I've written a lot of songs, and I don't need to prove myself as a songwriter per se. Like basically, if I want to write original songs, they'll just fall out of me.
Okay.
At this point, like I have enough mental space for that if I just stop what I'm doing, I'll write songs.
Okay.
So I'm just never worried about running out of song ideas anymore. I've also done a big collaboration with a lyricist who I met online. We've never met in person, but just like you and I are talking, over online right now. I've talked to Carlos, is his name, and like this, and he's my age, my generation, and my kind of person, and we talked about he's a trained writer. He's got like a fine arts degree, and so he basically writes lyrics, and we agreed what the broad scope of lyrics that I was interested in doing, and he just kind of sends me lyrics every once in a while. We put out 5 songs together so far, and so I kind of want to turn in my collaboration with him into an album now too. Like do a few more songs and then package it up and call it an album. But I haven't even had time to process the last lyrics he sent me. He sent me those lyrics in the spring. So it's just like there's a more creative stuff than I could possibly do, and I'm very happy about that. And I guess that's why I'm charging to help other people, because I've got so many ideas that I want to follow through on. I'm just like, well, if you want me to help you, I will do it for this amount, because then I can produce my other projects way faster by getting people to help me.
Doing what we do in our respective creative spaces and then sharing it publicly requires an amount of confidence, perhaps even bravado. And because we are competing with everyone else, it is natural that we have ebbs and flows in confidence. Because of that thief of joy comparison we're always trying to ignore, plus never too far away, lurking in the shadows, is imposter syndrome. But the drive is there. It's always in us. Jason is one of no less than 3 musicians who have been guests on this show that put away music only to return to it a decade or more later. A passion rekindled. Their creativity was dormant, not dead. Confidence, comparison, imposter syndrome. We're not making it sound sexy or rewarding, but it absolutely is worth it. Creativity is compelling. Music can be magical, writing worthwhile, perhaps even more so when you are returning to it, no matter how long the break. Just remember 3 words: dormant, not dead. Thanks for listening to the Palmer Files, episode 172, and now for the official business. The Palmer Files releases every 2 weeks on Tuesdays. If you're still listening, I encourage you to join the discussion. You can find all related ways to contact Jason or myself in the show notes. You can see all of Jason's stuff at jasonpilling.com, or look up Jason Pilling or Young Tukes on Spotify or SoundCloud or YouTube. The music for this episode is provided by Henno Heitur. Email and comments can be sent to this show at thepalmerfiles@gmail.com. And remember, your home for all things Agent Palmer is agentpalmer.com. right, Jason, do you have one final question for me?
Okay, so I'm trying to be an artist in the world. I've talked a lot about community and stuff like that, and I'm feeling very strongly in my life that I want to spend time with people.
Yeah.
Doing things together that we all care about and we all love to do. But the internet's standing in our way, I think. Do you think that this trend's going to go back? Are people also like, I have time, I guess, to do these things. So I'm seeking it out. Do you think that the rest of the world, the rest of the people are gonna, or is it even generational? Are people gonna want to be doing things in person again?
Yes. Windmill slam, absolutely 100% yes. And I say that because I like to call myself, I used to call myself an underemployed, podcast producer. Now I'm a stay-at-home dad that happens to produce podcasts and has my own blog and podcast. But one of my unofficial jobs that I take maybe too seriously is friend. And I have a friend who's in insurance that has been climbing the ladder and working for more hours than he's getting paid for. And I am his tether to reality in a sense. Not that he's, completely gone, but he's engaged in a corporate world on such a level that occasionally I'm like, dude, come over for dinner and we're just going to chill. Like, and as we record this, it's been only a couple weeks since we had our quote unquote sit in for Sanity, which is my wife and he both take days off, and we all just sit in the living room for like 4 hours, 8 hours. And we put on like a movie marathon. The first time we did it was obviously Lord of the Rings extended editions, but then we, this past one, one of the ones we did was all the Ninja Turtle movies. And then this past one, we did the Cornetto trilogy, which is, for those who don't know, it's Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and End of the World. And it's just, they're not allowed to talk work. You come over, we're going to eat junk food. We're going to watch movies. And if you want to write some poetry, if you want to paint minis, if you want to, whatever you want to do, that's fine. But this is our break. And that's, an annual, become an annual thing, but I try and get him over here on a more regular basis to get him out. He just bought a house and that's fine. And I like listening to him talk about mowing his lawn or fixing his stairs or whatever, but anything that's not related to work, I like hearing. But I am his tether to all that stuff. I am also, I guess, in full disclosure, his editor. Right. He's working on his second book of poetry. The first one we put out like what feels like 15 years ago. The second one we've been working on since. And for like 8 New Years in a row, whether we've been together or just on the phone, I've been like, so is this the year? And he's like, yeah, this is the year. And it's never been the year. You're listening to this in 2026. This is supposed to be the year, even though last year, 2025, was supposed to be the year. And so I'm his tether to bring him out. I also have a friend who's not quite as corporate necessarily minded, but he's got 2 jobs and a side hustle. And so, again, we talk every day and I try and bring him out. And I it's not just them. There are other people I know in my life that I'm like, whether you can come over or whether it's just a half hour where we're going to talk about music, talk about a movie, I'm going to make sure you're not thinking about that thing you're working on for 80 hours a week. And pulling them out. Now, look, I would call myself a rare breed. I do a lot of this with a phone, an actual phone call, not text. In fact, video like this kind of stuff, I only do for the podcast. If you and I exchange numbers, you're going to get phone calls from me because I prefer to talk to you. And that's not generational because I know other people in our generation and in between us hate the phone. They want to text, they want to email, it's like whatever. And
I want to do it in person. I hate the phone.
But second to that, I want to talk to you.
Yeah. I know. I'd rather talk on the phone than nothing.
Yep.
But like I literally just went to like Ottawa for the weekend for a music conference thing and hung out with my longest friend. We've known each other our entire lives. Hung out with my longest running friend for 10 hours and then came back home.
So I think it's coming back. And I think it's coming back because when I do drag these people away from their corporate brain for an hour or two, or even a half hour, they're all like, this was really good. And it's like, yeah, because you're not staring at a screen. You know, even if we have like a TV on, it's not the same. You know, yeah. Or, you know, go for a walk or, you know, meet out. You know, I don't go out to eat very much. I've got an 8-month-old at the moment. And so when I have a 2-year-old who will hopefully behave, I can go back out into the world and have lunches and try and get people to leave their space and keep your phone in your pocket or in your car or leave it at home. You know, genuinely, I've taken it upon myself within my small sphere of influence to get people to disconnect.
And what feels weird about that, I think maybe what the struggle is that it's almost like it's uncompensated effort, right?
Oh yeah, no, it's completely and it's a lot of, look, I know people are like rolling their eyes. It's a lot of work. You've like it feels like I'm trying to get my best friend off of heroin, but all I'm really trying to do is get him to put his phone down and hang out with me like we used to for a couple hours with no internet. Like it's just, but it feels like pulling teeth. Like, oh, but I just, no, it's like, dude, we grew up in the 90s. The internet was, you can search that on Yahoo, but it'll take 5 minutes. By that time, we were on to the next thing, and nobody looked it up. It's fine. I think everybody's coming together, will come together in a bigger way. I think right now, sadly, not only is the world fracturing, but the internet is isolating people on purpose. And I think that the first step is going to be putting down the phone. I mean, that's the first step.
That's starting to happen legislatively in a few places, like the Australia rules about, you know.
But that's great for 18 and under. But
well,
I worry about,
just,
I worry about our cohort because it's our friends that are kind of, it's our friends that need the legislation. Like, no, 9 o'clock, put your phone down. Like, whatever it is, it's just there's a need for it. And I understand the dopamine, social media, whatever, but I've personally broken my own habits by leaving my phone. Like, I don't absentmindedly leave my phone in the other room. I do it because I don't want it near me.
Yeah. I agree. I kind of like, I have to be on the internet just for kind of like professional reasons. Like I need to interact with
the marketing. That's the interaction
with my community.
Yeah.
But it sucks you in other ways. And honestly, I just want to be in a band. Like that is the greatest thing I could possibly do with my time. But it's hard. It's hard to get people to pull together and want to be in a band together. And
I know that there's a geek joke that like the hardest thing about playing D&D is getting 4 people to get together, but the same is true about getting a band together. Like it's not playing the music. Like you can simplify music for whoever.
Yep.
Getting even 3, even drum, bass, guitar, getting 3 people in the same place that aren't already living together. Oh, that stuff's not easy anymore. In fact, it's getting harder. And it shouldn't be.
No, it's hard. It's hard. Anyway, I hope you're right. It's coming back. I'm trying to bring it back. That's part of like what I consider to be what you just said. I want to bring people out, and I encourage people to just go out and be with other people. And I think music is good for that.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit self-serving, but it's also true.
Yeah.